Welcome into Bartholomew Town. A press release came across my desk a couple of weeks ago from the Audubon Society of Rhode Island. This is part of a lot of press releases that you get at the end of the legislative session. You try to sift through what passed and who's celebrating what. This is something that really piqued my interest. Rhode Island legislators pass an act relating to health and safety, pesticide control. And now Rhode Island is the second state in the nation to restrict dangerous anticoagulant rodenticides. That's going to protect our communities, pets, wildlife, and birds of prey, so says the Audubon Society of Rhode Island. And we're joined today here on the podcast by the Audubon's Advocacy Director, Maxwell McFarland. Maxwell, thanks for the time.
Hi, Bill. Great to be with you.
I heard some rebuttal to this this piece of legislation being passed, or just before it was passed, from one of the pest control companies on the radio. They were saying that this was just not realistic. It was onerous. I heard that and thought, yeah, but any step that you can take to, even on a micro level, improve outcomes for wildlife matters. Why is this so important from the Audubon standpoint?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Certainly there were some detractors, and it was a matter of battling opinion pieces in the Providence Journal as we were closing in on getting this legislation passed. But Audubon Society in Rhode Island has been working on responsible pesticide regulation as far back as we go as an organization. So I'm sure folks will remember, kind of the problems that DDT proposed. So Audubon worked here in Rhode Island back in the 60s to have that banned. More recently, with a nicotine-based class of pesticides, neonictinoids, Audubon was essential in helping to regulate those back in the early 2020s. And now we find ourselves here with anticoagulants. And we understand, and we can get into the details of this certainly, but we understand that this is the status quo for rodent management. But what we're seeing is an outsized and detrimental impact to our wildlife, our natural resources, and our animal and human communities with these poisons. So the legislation was important in getting passed.
Yeah, that legislation signed by Governor McKee on June 18th. Again, making along with California, which has tighter restrictions, by the way, Rhode Island now the second state in the country with such regulations on the books. This was a charge led inside the House by State Representative Rebecca Kislak and Senator Melissa Murray across the way in the State House. And McKee, of course, signed this into law, so he plays a role in this. So from an advocacy standpoint, we'll get into the details of what this means in the broader context of toxicity, which is a massive, massive discussion we should be having in the context of the Audubon's work, probably all of our work. But from a practical standpoint, how was this tough legislation to pass? How did this is one of those things that you could, like you said, it sparked some dueling opinion pieces. People on WPRO on a professional, forward-facing basis, and even on background, just calling in, would really split on this issue. What were the challenges legislatively here?
Yeah, Bill. So before I joined Audubon back in February of this year, Audubon had been working to get this passed in some form or fashion since 2024. So we're very thankful to our primary sponsors for this bill. Senator Murray had been introducing that bill alongside our wishes back in 2024, where it was just limiting the application of these rodenticides to pest management professionals. And obviously, as we've moved forward and we've had more coalition partners join the effort in getting this passed, we understand again, the outsized danger that these poisons present. So we have been working with a number of wildlife clinics here in Rhode Island that, unfortunately, each time we go up to the State House to testify on this bill, had new pictures of owls, hawks, and eagles bleeding from the inside. So that is the mechanism for these poisons. They cause internal bleeding, they stop clotting ability in these rats and mice. And what we're seeing is that when these rodents are poisoned, they're slowing them down, making them easier prey for these raptors, which should be our natural pest control. So you have a species like the great horned owl can eat anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 of these rats and mice a year. And we understand, from a scientific perspective, that this does play a large part in managing these populations. So I think it's tough because people want to see dead rats. It was a topic of debate in the mayoral run for city of Cranston back in
That's right.
2024. Right. So, people feel very strongly about this one way or another. And what we propose and, being able to get this through this year, I think we are able to make it clear that we do have proposed solutions. This is not just, a remove this staple in pest management and then, stand back and watch things unfold. We have a lot of substitutes that are wildlife safe to implement.
Yeah, no question about it. I want to get into that on a specific level in just a moment. But I also think one reason why this legislation was successful is because there's carve-outs. And when we look at legislation on a statewide basis and a municipal basis in Rhode Island, the legislative victories have come from compromise. And they have to exist in some sort of pragmatic, practical, real-world lane. So with that being said, there are exemptions here. For example, state and municipal employees that are using these rodenticides in the case of specific public health activities like protecting drinking water or vectors for mosquito-borne illness. We all know that scenario in the fall when the first Triple E case happens, or West Nile virus. We all know that. So there's still some available use for these toxins in sort of a triage or extreme situation. That's critical as well to making this happen, because there has to be a balance in practical legislating.
Absolutely. And the language of our bill, our law, I should say, does follow California's exemptions closely. We have seen, they took a study of 7 of the largest departments of health across their cities after they instituted their first initial moratorium back in 2020. It saw, once these poisons were removed, there were no significant increases. And continuing forward with their Poison-Free Wildlife Act in 2024, again, making those stronger restrictions. And you're right, Bill, there is a need for balance, and we understand that there are some cases, there is a line in the law that says, when there are no other non-chemical alternatives that work, things like that, there's always going to be some outstanding issues.
Right. Cranston residents will be happy to hear that because, as you said, a massive problem. It goes back for decades and it pops up every now and then. So there's a political reality to legislating when it comes around issues of environmental, ecological, toxicity, climate change, that I think this bill, there's another lesson to be learned here about how to get stuff done and move the ball forward. So kudos on that. Let's talk about some of those alternative pesticides, because when I heard this radio interview with one of the pest control companies or spokesperson, owner of that company, on with I believe it was Matt Allen on WPRO, they said, look, the alternatives, they just don't work as well. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, and I will be forthcoming. At Audubon, we're not trying to totally negate the fact that these poisons can kill individual rats. There's a reason that these have been used for 50 plus years and again have become kind of the staple in rodent management. What we're offering is proven effective alternatives that are truly sustainable in the long run. We understand that hundreds of injured and dead birds are coming in due to these poisons. And really, with this law bill, we're trying to introduce a paradigm shift. So not an easy undertaking, but something at Audubon we're very excited to do. And that, of course, is reimagining how we approach pest management. So instead of, reactively putting these poison blocks down, hoping a rat or mouse stumbles upon them and it takes them out, we're looking at where are their food sources. How are they able to reproduce so well? Where are folks finding them rather in their parks, in their restaurants, in their homes, what be it? And, implementing, statewide better trash containerization. We've seen a lot of success with that in New York, in Massachusetts as well, kind of those big, hunks of metal that have those heavy lids. Preventing rats from being able to enter those that give them a free meal. We've also, talked about better landscaping. And again, there's a whole bunch of language in the law that talks about taking a real technical approach to this.
As Rhode Island's first ever member-owned credit union, Navigant Credit Union has been a staple in the local business community for more than 108 years. Today, Navigant is a $3.4 billion institution serving more than 136,000 members across 25 physical branch locations. But since its founding in 1915, the mission has never changed. Navigant Credit Union's team of financial professionals have remained committed to improving the financial well-being of the families, businesses, and communities they serve across Rhode Island. Learn more at navigantcu.org. Bartholomew Town is proud to partner with Waterfire. Visit waterfire.org. Half Street Group brings a new generation's perspective to leadership communications, strategic public relations, and digital marketing. Half Street helps organizations and leaders take control of their own stories and manage their reputations. They get results for their clients by focusing on audience message and culture, and by leveraging their decade-long relationship with media and opinion leaders in the Ocean State and throughout New England. And by the way, join me and Half Street Group founder and president Mike Rea for a conversation every month about news of the day, the hottest media analysis, and a look behind the scenes at how impactful leaders drive conversations. Learn more at halfstreetgroup.com. Bartholomew Town, proud to partner with the University of Rhode Island Online. Are you ready to take the next step in your career? At URI Online, they offer business and leadership-focused programs designed to fit your life. Whether your goal is to advance your career in fields like public administration, supply chain management, or training and development, their online programs provide the flexibility you need with a high-quality education you deserve. You're going to learn from experienced faculty and collaborate with a network of professionals, all from the comfort of your home or wherever life takes you. Visit uri.edu/online to explore programs and start building your future today. URI Online, learn anywhere with us. Bartholomew Town is proud to partner with Newport Film. Visit newportfilm.com. Follow me on Instagram at Bill Bartholomew.
In New York City, Flacco's Law, which was proposed by the New York City Council, they are using GIS and coding software to identify where, kind of the abundance of rats are. So through methods like that, taking a scientific-based approach, improving some of these other measures that are kind of a low-risk, high-reward implementation are what we're offering. And then, of course, I was there for the vote on the House floor, and this kind of got some laughter, but it's a real opportunity, is rat birth control or rodent contraceptives. So putting these down and, again, attacking the origin of their ability to reproduce rather than reactively trying to take one out at a time, taking those populations down to a sustainable amount.
Yes, a couple of things there. First of all, you mentioned New York, and there's a lot to learn from New York with, frankly, Mayor Adams' implementation of those trash cans. And they just put new trash cans in Barrington. I've already heard complaints from people saying they're so big, they're so problematic. Yeah, but when you take that into the harmonious kind of ecosystem, if you will, of keeping rats out and getting your rubbish out at the same time, it actually makes a lot more sense. But look, I think you touch on something so fundamental, and it paired into even the way this is being implemented, which is there's going to be a pilot program at a municipal level that's going to begin no later than July 1st before the law goes into effect in the entire statewide prohibition. I think it's going to be 2029. Is that correct?
Yep. January 1st, 2029.
So there's opportunities for experimentation, and to try to figure out different ways. This is not the heavy hand of the state saying you can't have any rodenticides anymore. You got to use government-issued trash cans, and the only way you can handle pest control going forward is just rely on the red-tailed hawk in your neighborhood. It's not that at all.
Right.
It's not that at all. And some of the reaction would make you think it's that.
Right. And, that's going to be my role at Audubon, alongside others, is to help get out in the community and use our coalition partners, use the folks that are instituting these, integrated pest management approaches to minimize costs. Again, introduce these on, a plain language level where cities can participate if they'd like. We're not, subscribing them to an expensive, program where we're testing all these experimental methods. It's simple, instruments and habit changes that will, help reduce these populations of rats and mice in the long run.
Right. There's another piece to this as well, which is ecosystem. And I heard an interview, I think it was just yesterday, where science is deeply concerned. I didn't know this stat to the extent that that's bearing out, but in not only the decrease in insect population, but the decrease in insect mass. In other words, insects
Mm.
are actually smaller. They're physically declining in body weight and body mass, I should say. And what that says about the broader changes in our ecosystem right now. So I don't like rats. I lived in New York City. You got a couple of mice in your apartment, even here in Providence. That's one day. That's one thing. You figure it out. There's different, you can get some mint or figure it out, whatever. You start talking rats. I'm not living there anymore. I'm not looking to live in proximity with rats. At the same time, they do play a role, and, broad extermination of any species is not good, generally speaking. Is that fair to say?
It's fair to say, and Bill, I would say it's not feasible either. I know
Yeah.
people won't like to hear that, but there's a reason rats have been as prolific as they are and can be found pretty much anywhere in the world. Um, of course, we believe that putting these poisons down it's a side effect of the broader human wildlife relations that we see, and again, habits that are not going to change overnight, but we hope with this extended timeline and the phased in restrictions we can work again with the natural and non-natural methods available to us to reach that balance, as you said.
How much does open space and the protection of wildlife ecosystems, such as the Audubons and the other properties, how much does that play into habitat, which then in turn turns into natural pest control? Uh, Really, I mean, that's kind of what is natural pest control development.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we centered this at the State House around our raptors because, we had photos available that, strike an emotion within folks. It's evocative. And beyond that, we do have a lot of mammals that act as natural predators as well. Foxes, possums that are, being introduced in some places as, an alternative to these kind of natural pest control approaches. But having the ability to have large open spaces where these populations can thrive and they're not fragmented and subject to car collisions or building collisions, or again, some of these other poisons which are more focused in our city centers and populated areas. Having open space for them to proliferate and have those safe nesting and breeding grounds is hugely important.
If you want pest control in Rhode Island, get more open space. There's the message right there. Let's preserve it. Maxwell, thanks so much for your time. One last question here. It's
Mhm.
one of my favorite spots in the world is on Hazard Road in Newport, where the Audubon Society maintains an estuary and just an unbelievable habitat. It's literally it's like amazing. And there have been so many occasions when I've lived in Newport, or now I'm often in Newport a couple times a week. It's like a great place to just go and be. And I love that place. I love the birds that live there that come back. I hope come back every year. Now there's a proposal to take Hazard Road and turn it into a park, to turn it into a trail and actually get rid of the road there. I'm not sure if this is something that is going to give people more or less access to that area, but do you have any, or does the Audubon have any take on that is in the midst of this conversation? Because I know there are community level meetings happening with Hazard Road right now.
Yeah. And I think, as this is relatively new to me, we do have a strong stance in developing areas where we know that there are successful and or vulnerable avian populations. So, a recent example is on Gould Island. A lot of Audubon members and supporters are, very passionate about that subject as well, and that would, potentially end in some of these islands, again, these areas that host these populations to be developed for recreational use or otherwise. And, you know, to the extent that that is occurring, we're limited in that. We do oppose that, but in areas where there's some compromise, we ask to be included as, oversight and consultants, to hopefully strike, again, that word balance, between the needs for development, but also the protection for our wildlife.
Yeah, I think wildlife being center of this conversation is most important here. We don't often do that when we think about city planning. So I hope the conversation is oriented there on the grassroots level. It's something to keep an eye on, and I appreciate you weighing in on it because I think a lot of people are just, frankly, it just seems like an exploratory scenario, and expertise is needed here. Maxwell McFarland, thanks so much for your time, and congratulations to the Audubon Society and everybody that worked on this bill to limit these rodenticides, which is just part of a broader toxicity conversation. You're going to hear a lot more about that here on Bartholomew Town as we continue to kind of find that intersection between climate and ecosystem and public health. It's all ahead here on the podcast. Thanks, Maxwell.
Thanks, Bill.
Always great to check in with our friends from Navigant Credit Union. Molly Pastori serves as the first vice president of marketing and member experience at Navigant. And today we're going to talk about the Embark accounts. We've talked about this before, but Molly, explain what the Embark accounts are and why this is a great opportunity for teens or really anybody of any young age to get into managing their own money.
Sure. Thank you, Bill. Nice to be on with you. The Embark account is a digital first checking account. It's designed for teens and young adults, ages 13 to 22. Takes just $10 to open. There's no monthly fees. It comes with some really great features like card controls, mobile alerts, mobile check deposit, and it has a great roundup to savings feature. And it's really a great first step towards that financial independence for teens and young adults. And really, we talk about summer is the perfect time to start good money habits. Whether teens are earning from a summer job, chores around the house, the Embark account helps them manage their money in a smart and safe way. It's designed to help them spend and save, all while building financial confidence and independence. And additionally, the account is great because it offers tools to support everyday money management. It tracks spending. You can set budgets. And again, it encourages that savings with that roundup feature. So, also with mobile deposit and real time alerts, teens can handle their finances on the go and never have to visit a branch if they don't want to.
And of course, you enter into the Navigant CU ecosystem at a
Mhm.
young age, which in and of itself is a great opportunity for anybody out there. Molly, if somebody is hearing this right now, maybe the teen themselves or a parent or somebody who says this is perfect for somebody I know, what's the best way for people to begin that sign up process?
Sure. So super easy. You can open the account online at navigantcu.org, or you can stop by any one of our 25 branch locations, or you can call or live chat us. Calling is 401-233-4700. So multiple ways to open the account, and it's super fast and easy.
Yeah, you got to do it. navigantcu.org. You're not going to be disappointed. There's just so many tools available on the digital side when it comes to Navigant, and it's just a great interface for somebody who's just getting into their own financial well-being. Molly Pastori, first vice president of marketing and member experience at Navigant Credit Union, navigantcu.org. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.